and I was actually unconscious when I died, and I woke up at the moment my heart stopped. And my very first thought was, my heart has stopped. And I was literally floating further and further away from my body. And I thought, how do I know my heart has stopped? And I thought, boy, I don't know how I know, but I know that's right. And then as I'm continuing to float away from my body, I thought, boy, my whole life I've wondered what it would be like to die, what would take me out. And now it's happened, and it was no big deal. And I remember thinking, I wish I'd known what a non-big deal this was, and I wouldn't have been so afraid. And one of the thoughts I had, as a writer, I thought to myself, wow, I'm dying. And then I said, no, actually, you're not dying, you're dead. And it made me laugh out loud, literally, and I heard myself giggle. And I thought, what exactly did I leave behind on that gurney? I'm giggling, I'm thinking, I can see, I can hear, all my senses are intact. It was very remarkable to realize there really is no death. Not is there no death, but everything we are, even our funny little giggle, goes with us. The most remarkable aspect of my near-death experience, and by the way, I call it my temporary death. I wasn't near death. I had no heartbeat, no blood pressure, nothing for more than 10 minutes. So I prefer to think of it as temporary death. But during that time, I was impressed beyond words by how much peace and calm I felt. If you could take the most perfect peace a human being could ever imagine and multiply it by 1,000,000, I don't think that would touch what I experienced. And that peace was so profound and life-changing. And I remember as I was, again, floating in the darkness, I remember thinking, I should be afraid. I don't like the dark. And I thought, I should be afraid, but I have the most perfect peace I've ever known. And that's one of the reasons I had no intention of going back. As a writer, as a creative person, I have always suffered from profound anxiety. And subsequent to my husband's tragic death, it seemed like that was multiplied 100-fold. All that anxiety was gone. And while I was wondering, what exactly did I leave behind on that gurney, I realized I left behind the fear, the worries, the anxiety. And I thought, I've always wondered what I would look like when I had no anxiety and no fear and no worries. And I thought, this is great. This is wonderful. So I was floating through that blackness, and I thought about the Bible verse, the peace that passeth all understanding. And I thought, this is what Paul was talking about. This is the peace that words could never describe. It passes all the understanding we have as human beings. It was so profound. It still is very touching to me, that peace I felt. And at one point, early on in the experience, shortly after I passed, I thought, I'm having a great time. I'm alone, but I'm having a great time. And I remember thinking, I like floating. Floating is fun. This is great. And as a writer, that's horrible. That's horrible text. I should have been using bigger words, more expressive language, but that was the best I could do. And I sensed a massive spiritual presence with me, just to my left and slightly behind me. Well, I'm still floating in this blackness and having the time of my life, literally. And I turned my head to the left and a little bit up, and I said, with a lilt in my voice, "And who are you?" And the answer was immediate. The answer was, "You, Rosemary, you are the image and likeness. I'm the original." And I thought, wow. And for many years of my life, I've studied Genesis, specifically First Genesis, and that's the language of the Bible from First Genesis 25 and 26, that we're made in God's image and likeness. But these words came with an infusion of knowledge. It wasn't mere words. The Bible talks about, in the beginning was the Word, and I thought about that this is what that meant. These were words that came with all the power that created the universe. And I thought, wow, could this possibly get any better? Because now I understand. I'm the image and likeness. And it was an experience, I know people say this often, that words can't describe. But I was having such a good time, and I felt, honestly, my life has not been an easy one. And I was so grateful that at age 59 it was over, that it almost felt like I'd been granted an early release for good behavior, and now I was on my way back home. And that was a profound feeling, was that I was just going home. And I didn't want to go back to Earth at all. It never even crossed my mind about coming back. I literally remember thanking God that I was done, that I had done what I needed to do, and I was now moving home. And at some point, and this is still a point of consternation for me, it's almost like somebody took my batteries out. There's a complete blank from being in that blackness to being in a white room. And it was a beautiful white room, but it was pure white. The walls, the ceiling, the floor were like luminescent, pearlescent, white, white, white. And I was in this room, and I don't remember the transition from the black, floating in that blackness to the white. And that white room, I was told I was there for healing, that whether I went back or whether I went on, we can't go to heaven with burdens and sadness and sickness. So I thought, okay, well, this is great. I like the white room. And being an architectural historian, I looked around for lights, and there were no lights. It was just the walls were illuminated from within. And I saw a door at the other side of the room, and I decided, I don't know if I have feet or legs, but I'm going to perambulate toward that door. And it was almost as though, just with the intention, I started moving toward the door. And I knew what the door was. My whole life I've studied near-death experiences and read the books, and I knew the door meant that there was no coming back, that was crossing the Rubicon. So I eagerly scooted toward the door at best possible speed because I was done. And I was so, again, just profoundly grateful. And at the door, I paused. I paused and I asked, is this the divine will for my life? That a simple slip of the surgical knife takes me out? And the answer was no. But the answer also was, but whatever you decide, if you decide to go forward or you decide to go back, whatever decision you make, you go with all of God's grace and mercy and blessings and love. There isn't a wrong decision.